Welcome everyone. We're going to start our meeting. Russ, can you lead us in Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, everyone, please rise. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Russ. Welcome to our March 1st Republican Committee meeting, Amherst Public Committee meeting. This is the third time now we've done this debate. The reason for us having the debate is we felt that we needed to give candidates as much exposure as possible to voters. That was one reason, and actually I can't remember the second reason. I'll think about it. But anyways, this is a very important election. Obviously, local elections affect your taxes probably more than even the state level elections, so weigh your options carefully. The format today is I'm going to go through different groups of candidates for different positions. They'll each get 2 minutes to speak, and then while they're speaking, we have Brenda and Jason has cards, and you can write down your questions, and they'll bring them up to me, and I'll start peeling them off, and have those questions asked. Obviously, we might get some duplicates. One of the reasons, the last 2 years, we used to just have people stand up and ask the questions, but unfortunately, we got people doing 5-minute speeches, or standing up and saying, I want to ask 3 questions, or personal attacks disguised as questions. So this year we're trying to do it a little differently, where we just kind of, screen it a little bit, before they come through. Other than that, we'll get started. I know that Sydney Irving has to leave soon, so we're going to do keeper of the check. Is that what it's called?
Supervisor.
Supervisor of the checklist.
Supervisor of the checklist.
Yeah.
We anecdotally call it keeper of the checklist. She'll start first. Yeah, I already started the video.
No, do you want to just mention that it's being recorded?
Pardon?
You want to mention it's being recorded?
Oh yes, we are being recorded today. So. Okay, so Sydney, you want to come up and...
Hi everyone, I'm Sydney Irving. I'm running for Supervisor of the Checklist. I've lived in town for 10 years. I've been active in the community as a Girl Scout troop leader. I've worked with the PTA. I've been in the musicals, raising funds for our schools. And I've been a volunteer for the past 9 years for pretty much every election. I've been ballot clerk. I've registered many new voters, especially this last election. We had over 400, it was amazing. And I've helped with the count at the end of the night. Over the last year, I've worked with the supervisors, learning about the position, what it entails beyond what we all know and see on election day. As it's really important to make sure that our voter checklist is as accurate as it can be. I have 25 years experience in data collection, data management, data analytics. So, being able to work with the data within town is very exciting for me. And yeah, so I was sworn in as interim supervisor in January when Maggie Paul stepped down. So I've been doing the position for about 2 months, and yeah, I'm running.
Okay, thanks, Sydney.
Yeah. Irving.
Irving,
Yep.
sorry. Sydney Irving. I do have a stopwatch, maybe that was a minute 12. I believe Jim McGinnis is also running for this position.
That's true.
You thought I forgot about you. No, I didn't.
My background is kind of simple. I've been in town since 1996. I've been a mentor with the Souhegan robotics. I have to talk even louder?
Yeah.
Sure.
A lot of old people here.
I've been a mentor for the Souhegan High School robotics team for several years. I've also for quite a few years done ballot clerk or registering voters as a volunteer for the Supervisor of the Checklist. And so I'm running for this position too. My goal is to make the elections as clean, accurate, and full of integrity as they can be. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Very good. Okay, I'm going to move to the Board of Selectmen now. If the four candidates would like to sit at the front, I'd really appreciate it. And anyone, if they have a question, they can raise their hand at any time. And Jason, etc., and Brenda will come over and let you scribble down your question. If not, then I'll be asking questions. Okay, so there's three. Are we missing a person?
Sure.
Len, okay. Pam, oh yes, Pam wasn't able to make it, correct, sorry about that. So I'm going to just read her statement and then we'll just proceed on. Pam Coughlin, 9 Mulberry Lane, Amherst, New Hampshire. My name is Pam Coughlin and I am a candidate for the Amherst Board of Selectmen. Except for traveling with my husband John to attend school and his active duty tour with the United States Marine Corps, I have always lived in New Hampshire. We chose to live, work, and raise a family in New Hampshire because of the unique qualities and opportunities that New Hampshire provides. We have 4 adult children who graduated from Souhegan High School. I'm currently Amherst Planning Board member, former legislator, Hillsborough County Register of Deeds, and Souhegan Board member. I'm running to be your selectman because I understand and appreciate taxpayers' concerns on how your dollars are raised and spent at the local level. I'm committed to a common sense and a practical approach to government. I would appreciate your vote on March 11, 2025. Thank you, Pamela Coughlin. Okay, so I'm going to generally do these in alphabetical order. So, okay, who's next? That'd be John D'Angelo.
My name is John D'Angelo. I'm running for the Board of Selectmen. I was watching the sign-ups for the town offices, and I noticed that after one day, nobody signed up for the Board of Selectmen. After 2 days, nobody signed up for the Board of Selectmen. After 3 days, nobody signed up for the Board of Selectmen. I said, well, maybe I should sign up for the Board of Selectmen. So I have 9 years total experience on the board. I thought that was a useful thing to have since we're losing 15 years of experience through retirements on the board this year. In addition, we are having significant turnover in our department heads. We've hired a new recreation director, we've hired a new tax collector, we've hired a new manager of assessing. We have offers out to a new town administrator and a new community development director, and we still need to replace our finance director who's going to be gone in a few months. That's a lot of experience losing between the board and the town's department heads. And we do things a little differently. We have a strategic planning, strategic management approach to running the town that's different from what most other towns do. Again, having nobody with any experience doing that at the town administrator and the department head level is kind of a problem. So the only selectman we have who was here at the start of this thing is Tom Grella. And I hate to put all the burden on Tom of educating all these people on how we do things.
Bring it.
Okay, Tom will take care of it, and I'll just sit. Anyway, I think I have some things to contribute, including the experience. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, John. Okay, the next person would be Len Gerzon.
Hi folks, my name is Len Gerzon. I've lived in town since 1993 with my wife Nancy. We've been married for a long time and together for 40 years. And I just really love this town. And I just wanted to start off by being brief. So I'm going to read my statement rather than speak it. During my 32 years as a resident in Amherst, I have served on numerous local boards and committees, including the Amherst Land Trust, the Amherst Conservation Commission, the Peabody Mill Environmental Center, which I chaired when it was completed, and the Souhegan Valley Chamber of Commerce. I've been nominated by Republicans and Democratic governors to serve on numerous state boards, including the Real Estate Appraiser Board, where I was vice chair, and the Supreme Court has nominated me to the Attorney Discipline Organization, where I've served for 11 years. That's a board that basically disciplines attorneys and potentially disbars them. In each of these volunteer roles, I have served with transparency, accountability, and diligence. It is with this spirit that I have submitted my candidacy to you for the Amherst Board of Selectmen. It is my hope that my experience will allow me to continue the good work and the transparent public processes that the Amherst Selectmen have cultivated over the past several years. During my career, I became recognized as a state and national leader in my profession. As the Director of Property Taxes for PSNH, the largest property tax owner in New Hampshire, I managed a budget of over $60 million of annual property taxes. I also served as a senior advisor to Northeast Utilities, at the time an $18 billion company, larger now, as Eversource, and the largest property owner in New England. I deeply understand the role of local property revaluations and how they serve the complex needs of the towns, state governments, and taxpayers. In 2001, following a major court case on property tax administration, the New Hampshire Assessing Standards Board was created, a body I then served for 15 years, 4 as chairman. During my 7-year tenure before that, as vice chairman, I'm almost done.
Okay.
I led a state legislative and local governmental official group, and I wrote the book called Understanding New Hampshire Property Taxes and Reference Manual for Selectmen and Assessors. This manual is the guide for local property revaluations, a process which Amherst is about to undergo in 2016. And should I be elected, I'm uniquely qualified to lead the revaluation. Thank you.
Thank you. Russ Hodgkins.
Good morning, I'm Russ Hodgkins. I'm running for Selectman. Know a lot of folks in here, but for those who don't, I grew up in Quincy, Massachusetts. When I was 18, I went off and joined the Air Force. Went to the Air Force Academy, graduated from there. Became a pilot in the Air Force, spent about 30-odd years on active duty. During my time in the Air Force, I flew 116 combat missions in the EF-111 airplane during Desert Storm and some of the follow-on stuff. Between flying assignments, I ran various programs. I've ran a multi-million-dollar program for 2 years that was an African training program. Last assignment I had in the Air Force, I ran a nationwide organization as program manager with an annual budget of around $60 million or so and about 450 people. So I've got a lot of experience working in budgetary kinds of things and groups of people and those kinds of things. My education is I've got an undergraduate degree in aeronautical engineering, and I've got a master's degree in aviation science and a master's degree in international strategic studies. My wife Donnie and I have been living here in Amherst since 2009 when we moved here after we retired from the Air Force. I've been on the Town Ways and Means Committee for the last 3 years, so I have a reasonably good understanding of how the town budgetary process works, and I think I have a lot of insight into that. 3 things that I'd like to say are the kind of the key points I'd like to get across as the hallmarks of my campaign. The first is I think we need to keep Amherst a nice, small, mostly rural town, nice place to live. I don't think we need to try to develop this place into being Manhattan on the Souhegan River or anything like that. So we need to keep the rural quality of Amherst. To do that, we need to have a growth strategy for Amherst that's not no growth and not unlimited growth. So somewhere between those 2 extremes, we have to have a growth strategy for moderate growth of the town, because there's a lot of people that want to improve things in this town and so forth. We just can't have a no growth strategy.
You're going to need to wrap it up.
Okay, and the last thing is we need to make sure that the town budget and town taxes increase at a commensurate level with spending, cost of living, and the growth of the town.
Okay, thank you, Russ. Okay, I've gotten 2 questions already. Again, if you have a question, just raise your hand and our people will come over and give you a place to write down and then bring it to the front. Okay, so the first question I have, and it's 1-minute response for each, I'll be timing. Are you willing to appoint an independently minded committee on Amherst town efficiency to report ideas on cost efficiency for the Board of Selectmen to consider? We'll just go in a different order this time. We'll just go left to right. Len, you can go first.
Yes, I believe that any kind of initiative to improve efficiency in the town is always what good stewardship should be for a Board of Selectmen. I think that it has to be defined, it has to be legal. I do think that one of the things I do want to say is anything the Selectmen do, which is not the normal course of action, needs to not cause harm to the town, meaning lawsuits. And so as Bill Belichick said, do your job and don't make unforced errors. And so if you're going to make a move like that, do it deliberatively and do it the right way. But efficiency is certainly the key role of the stewardship of this town as a member of the Board of Selectmen.
Terry, can people stand up when they're answering your questions?
Yeah, if you'd like, you can stand up, sure. Go ahead, John.
Yes, I have no objection to such a committee. I think it somewhat overlaps on what Ways and Means is supposed to be doing, but I have no problem with a separate committee to look into efficiency.
And yes, and I agree with John that Ways and Means already does some of this stuff, so whether this would be a separate standalone committee or a subcommittee of the existing Ways and Means Committee with that as their charter, I could go either way, but I think it's a great idea.
All right, thank you. Second question, what is your vision for affordable housing and appropriate planning and zoning changes needed to implement, or be implemented? We'll go last.
Okay, well this is the whole $64 million question for Amherst is how do we get growth? When we talk about housing affordability, we're talking like how do you get in at the lower level of the housing food chain? So we have to think about that, but we also have to remember that there's people at the top of the housing food chain that like things like property values, so you can't make things different so that people at the full spectrum of property ownership lose their property values, because a lot of people's wealth is tied up in their home's value. So things that we do to make housing more affordable at the low end can't hurt people at the top end. I think a good smart growth strategy where you have some incentives and so forth are great. I think a lot of that, quite frankly, has to come from the state level as far as things like tax abatements and things like that. But I guess what I'll say is that there's a lot of areas in Amherst that could be developed. We have a lot of areas that are open for that. We need to be smart about it. We don't want to hurt people's property values who already own property in the town.
Okay, go ahead, John.
I have no objection to most of what Russ just said, but it is really not the job of the Board of Selectmen to regulate that. That should be something you should be talking to the planning board people about.
I've actually been doing campaigning in town. I talk to people, and basically, people who have children basically said, my kids can't afford to live in this town. What are you going to do about it? And I think that I've looked at the town report, I've looked at what the planning board has done recently, I've looked at some of the lawsuits that have come against the town, which were unforced errors, refusing projects that involved moderate and lower cost housing. And I think we have to build a society and a community where we can have young plumbers, young electricians, young work people that can provide services to us. And Amherst has gone too far for too long at not having a mixed stock of housing. And I support developments for workforce housing.
Thank you. Okay, would you be in favor of an effective budget committee? I believe that's the Ways and Means, correct?
No, that's a whole different thing.
Oh, okay. In favor of an effective budget committee. We'll start with John, and then we'll move to Russ and
Well, having a budget committee is different from the way this town works. Budget committee is a statutory created thing that has specific responsibilities and authorities. It's completely different from the way we've always done it. That doesn't mean I'm not willing to look at it, but I'm not prepared to jump into it right now.
Okay, Russ, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, budget committees, that's a whole different, like John said, it's a whole different way of doing business. What happens in towns that adopt budget committees, they typically are a little bit larger towns. We're about 11,000 odd people here. We're probably getting to the point where maybe that's something we need to think about. If we were a town, say, of like Hudson size or something, then budget committee, when you're a town of like 25,000 people, more urban, budget committees kind of make sense. My understanding is budget committees also have impact on school budgets in addition to the town budget, and it's a major sea change in how the town does business. So are we big enough for that yet? I don't know. I'd have to look at that.
When the governor takes office, he creates a transition team of 12 people, and I was one of the 12 people that John Lynch appointed to be his transition people to look at all the state budget issues, including I did the Department of Education, the Liquor Commission, the Planetarium, the vocational ed college system, and the Lottery Commission. And I worked with a Republican state rep. We were a two-person team on our subsection. I agree with these gentlemen. We already have a Ways and Means Committee. The primary function of the Ways and Means is to oversee a good conversation, review of the budget, and the Selectman's job is to have a very hands-on approach to working 6 or 8 months out of the year, developing ready for town meeting with the budget. So no, we don't need it, but I've got the skills to look at budgets in a deep dive way.
Thank you. Okay, this is the next question. What is your position regarding the proposed sidewalk plan in the village? Please address historic impact and property impact of eminent domain. And we'll go from Lynn and go this direction.
Right. I do want to say something about the Babusick project, the trail system that's on everybody's minds, along with this question. I do think that people in Amherst have time and time again said they want pathways, sidewalks, walkways for safe passage for their children. They want good recreational facilities. They want trails where they can be had. However, this is a long process. This is a generational process. So if you work on something and you get the ability to get leverage from state funds to do any work to add to sidewalks or trails, if you pay 20 cents and you get $1 back, that's good policy, that's good stewardship. So I support better sidewalks and more trails for safe passage for our citizens.
So I'm a big fan of sidewalks wherever there's room to put a sidewalk in. And that's kind of the problem in the village, because you can't put sidewalks in several places without taking the land away from the people who own it. I don't have a solution for that. So I'm all in favor of putting sidewalks in where we can. I also support Article 35. We should definitely take that $2.6 million the federal government's offering us. But, I mean, it's challenging when you don't have the room. I mean, you go up Mack Hill, where are you going to put a sidewalk? I mean, it's just a tough place to be. So, anyway, that's what I think.
Russ, go ahead.
I'm gonna stay agnostic on the whole issue with the Babusick Greenway, but I think what I would like to say is that I think the way it's on the ballot this time is exactly the right way to do it. When you look at the town budget should be all the things that we need to do. Plow the streets in the wintertime, make sure the roads are in good shape, have a good police force, have a good fire department. That should be the town budget. Then there's nice to do things. Nice to do things is like the Greenway and stuff like that, okay? That shouldn't be something that doesn't go to the taxpayers for a vote, okay? If the taxpayers vote for that, I'd say, great, that's a good thing, the taxpayers have spoken. But I don't think we should do budgetary tricks, which have not been done, so please don't get me wrong here. We shouldn't have any sort of budgetary tricks where we try to bury things like that in the town operating budget. So I guess what I'll say is that I'm not going to say one way or the other how I'm going to vote on that. I'll say that the way we're doing it, by having the Greenway as a separate warrant article, is exactly the right way to do stuff. And that's the way we should look to do things like that, projects like that in the future, is make it so the voters know how much it's going to cost and they get a vote as to whether they're going to do it or not.
Okay, thank you. All right, here's a need to know when roads are going to be repaired. Main Street, Jones Road, Narragansett Drive. We'll start with John, and then we'll go to Lynn, and then go ahead.
Every year, DPW puts out a schedule of roads that are scheduled for this year to get repaired. If you want to look past the current year, there's a 5-year plan on the DPW website that has when the roads are expected to come up. That doesn't mean that's when they'll actually get done. Winter has a vote too. Sometimes roads move up and sometimes they move back. But that information is available on the DPW website.
I'm not sure how to respond to this. I think the DPW has the job of handling roads. I'm on roads all the time. I walk a lot. A couple of years ago, I walked the Camino in Spain, a religious pilgrimage, and I trained, and I'm looking at the roads every day. I'm seeing the cracks from the weather. I know that DPW does a great job trying to keep up with it. In a bad winter, which we're having, the budget goes up for plowing, the budget goes up for sanding and salting, and the budget goes up for usage of the equipment. It's wearing out. We have capital reserve fund warrants for replacing certain kinds of trimmers that clear sidewalks and brush on an angle off the roads. That needs to be primary mission of the selectmen. We've got to keep people safe. We've got to keep the roads safe. We got to keep health and safety and roads #1 mission.
Go ahead, Max.
I'll just say that having worked with on Ways and Means and seen the DPW people, they're the experts. So I think we need to rely on their expertise. I'm not a civil engineer. We get people that are smart on that sort of stuff. So they have a plan. It's tied in with all the budgets and stuff and all the out years and so forth. And so they know roads and bridges in addition. You know, we have some bridges that are on the so-called red list and so forth in this town. So they got a plan to take care of that stuff. I think it's just a question of supporting the DPW folks, making sure they're getting what they need to do to get the roads fixed. And maybe if you live on a bumpy road, I'm sorry, you might not get it fixed this year, but at some point in the future, you'll probably get your road fixed.
Okay, thanks everyone. I know we had an extra question come in, but we really need to move into the next candidate. So let's give a nice round of applause. I'd like to call Mark Vincent, who's running unopposed for town moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. It is a good morning, isn't it? My name is Mark Vincent. I am running for town moderator. My name will be the only one on the ballot. There is, of course, always that write-in spot, so I have to be careful. I'm a 21-year resident of the town of Amherst, and I am currently already a moderator. I'm serving as the interim moderator for the Amherst School District due to the resignation of our former moderator. And I served as assistant moderator for the last 2 elections, the September primary and the general election in November, and really enjoyed every minute of it. It's a long day, but I really enjoyed it. Learned a lot about the process. There's a lot that goes on to put our elections together before we get to election day, and then of course you see what happens during election day. And I look forward to continuing to do that job. I really enjoy being at the polling place on election day, not just to vote, but all day long. And then after the polls close, that's when a lot of other activity starts. We want to make sure that every vote is counted accurately, and that's exactly what we do. We make sure that everybody in town can come in and vote, and I think we saw almost everybody in town in November, and it's super high turnout, which we usually do, which is fantastic. Saw a lot of terrific people coming through. So I'm looking forward to, once again, being at the polls all day on March 11th, helping our town moderator, George Bauer, run this election. The other part of the job, of course, is appointing the town Ways and Means. We heard about budgets and budget committees. Appointing the Ways and Means. I served as chair of the Amherst School District Ways and Means years ago for a number of years, so I know how this process works, or at least should work, between Ways and Means and the elected body and the administration to collaborate, discuss, deliberate, and come up with a good, solid budget, and have some fun in the process, which I think we did, right, Ted? So I know how that process works, and I look forward to keeping a good relationship between Ways and Means and the Selectmen, so that we can continue to have good deliverables on the ballot when we go to vote.
Thank you.
I appreciate your vote on March 11th. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks very much. Any written questions for Mark? No. Okay, we're going to move on to the Amherst School District Board. So we have our 4 candidates at the front. I don't know if Brian Gold would make it today.
He's on vacation with his family.
Vacation week.
Okay. Each of you get a 2-minute speech, and we're going to do this in alphabetic order. So that would be Michael Almeida first.
Thanks, everybody. Good morning. So just wanted to make a couple comments. So first, my name is Michael Almeida. I'd like to thank Terry and the Republican Committee for putting this event on. It's my pleasure to be with you today. I'm excited to tell you a little bit about myself. Hope it helps you kind of understand who I am as a person and what I can bring to the table. So first, I'm a parent to 2 young children soon entering our schools. So their success and your children's success is paramount to me. I'm a veteran of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. I'm a husband, and an Amherst resident. My family and I have called Amherst home for about 8 years now. My wife and I deeply understand the importance of education. I have a bachelor's degree in IT, a master's degree in IT, and a master's of business administration. I currently lead a team of engineers, architects, PhDs, building and maintaining global defense systems. So mission systems, IT systems, you name it. I've managed many multi-billion-dollar RFPs, RFIs. I've responded to or put out thousands of requests for proposals and RFIs. So deeply invested in that. I currently actually lead hiring, training, and support for a Fortune 5 company as well. So deeply understand what's needed in early career talent, even young career talent. We have high school internships, college internships that I manage. So understand the skill sets needed. As a parent, I'm deeply invested in the future of our children and our schools, and I believe a strong educational system is the foundation of a thriving community. I support our dedicated teachers and staff who work tirelessly to provide our children with the best possible learning experience. I'm committed to working collaboratively with the school board, the administration, Ways and Means, Building and Grounds committees, and fellow community members to ensure that our schools continue to provide a high-quality education. Really all about transparency. Many of you may seen my posts on Facebook and other things, but I think we need to do a much better job at providing as much data and as much transparency to the voters as possible. We do represent you, but it is important that you understand everything that's happening. The challenges facing our schools are absolutely complex, especially the Wilkins project and all the other things we're facing, with the potential for EFAs to come out as well. So really just want to say I'm confident by working together we can find a path forward that balances educational excellence with fiscal responsibility, ensuring a bright future for our students in our town. Really appreciate your time and attention, and I look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Okay, Aaron?
My name is Aaron Kaplan, running for Amherst School Board. I've been attempting to work with the Amherst School Board for several years. One of my primary goals has been attempting for board members and community and opposing voices to find common ground, because that is always possible, no matter how far at odds you seem to be with your neighbors on any particular issue. To that end, I wanted to try to improve communication and have an open dialogue between board and citizen. For example, increasing time limit to speak. Previously, from what I have seen, there was 5 minutes at the beginning, end of meeting, and also between topics, so people could weigh in and say, hey, that was great work that you just did there, I support that, I know you got this wrong. We need that open dialogue, because I don't really see that going on. Now, unfortunately, I wanted to speak a bit more about my goals. However, just this morning, one of my opponents had posted online all the merits and how safe the Wilkins project is, so I'm going to touch on that some. This project, which is a demolition and rebuild of this school building while students are present, has been pitched as a cost-effective, viable solution. I find it to be anything but. If you listen to what the construction crew said at the information night, they raised Bow Elementary as a comparative. They said that was most similar to ours. That school building actually has slightly more students in it than ours, and yet they're only spending $12 million, and that building is going to be roughly between 70,000 and 80,000 square feet, all done and all over, which is substantially smaller than what we have. Substantially lower cost, renovation and addition onto the building. Exeter School District, less than $18 million for a 40,000 square foot addition, which would almost double our facility, plus also rehabbing. And if you look at even the largest one that they compared, I think it was called Great Brook, 128,000 square foot, slightly larger than what we have, but they say that student body supports 1,200 students within that building. And yet ours is only a little bit smaller, and they're saying, I think it's 700 students. And that was, I think, roughly 20 million or so cheaper. We have these other options that have been put in front of our face, and yet if you dig below the surface of what we're told by the architects and construction crews, you see that something doesn't add up. Look at our capital needs assessment that was done just in 2017, and you'll find that $3 million was a quote for repairing that building, renovating it. How do we now say it's 30-something million? Something is not adding up here, and we really need to do our due diligence and find a reasonable solution for everyone, and a safer one than the dangerous one that we have on hand now. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, Jason White.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Jason White. I'm running for the Amherst School Board. I hope to be under 2 minutes. Keep me on that one, Terry. So, the reason that I'm running is really I've dedicated my whole life to public education. I have been a public educator since 2003 in Massachusetts. I've been a teacher, I've been an English teacher, special education teacher. Currently, I'm an assistant principal in Townsend, Massachusetts at Hawthorne Brook Middle School. My role on the board, so I'm currently on the board, is basically, this is what I do every single day. I'm able to kind of see and know what the impact is in terms of the educational experience that our educators have and our children have as those decisions are made. In terms of whether that be who gets hired, you know, being part of the superintendent process, or whether that be policy decisions, what's this going to look like in the classroom and how is that going to impact or affect those. Additionally, my whole life has been dedicated to public service. Again, I view being a public educator as public service. I'm also a veteran. I want to give back to the community, and this is where I feel I can most do that. It'll be up to you as to whether or not you agree. I hope so, but that's why I'm running. And thank you, everybody. Thank you to the Amherst Republicans for running this. Thank you to my opponents. Just more options, the better. So, you know, just appreciate everyone being here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a question here. If ASD school fails for a 4th time this year, are you open to discussing options to help ASD school districts, such as moving 7th and 8th grade to the Souhegan Annex? And we'll start.
Sure, yeah. We'll go reverse order. Right, so if Warrant Article 12 fails, I think we have to reset the table and figure out what it means. So I do want to kind of clarify as quickly as possible. It's not as though the same project has been presented year over year. This is the only time that the same project has been presented. And the reason for that is last year when the voting public voted, it got 54% of the vote. So the board took that and said, wow, we were at 38 one time, we were at 42 another time, we're at 54 now. This is the majority of those who voted last March. Said that this is the project that they most support. And to be honest, that was a little bit of a rush, so we felt like maybe there wasn't enough runway to provide information. So, because that vote literally happened almost just like a month before deliberative. So we thought, okay, if the majority of those who voted supported this, if we have more runway to help people understand what the project means, maybe that this is the right fit. But if it fails, and we have to be open. Thank you, sorry.
Go ahead.
All right, so the annex is just one of multiple options that, in my opinion, has not been really given its fair consideration. Multiple previous school board members, people in town have asked for the boards to look at this and weigh this option. That has never been done to any reasonable extent. It's been said that this is developmentally inappropriate. However, all it is a junior high model, 7th and 8th, and a junior high setup, similar to Bedford and Hollis. I was just at Bedford High School. They actually merged the buildings into one, and they have degrees of separation, so they have shared facilities to save on costs, for example, a gym and so on, and yet there are separate areas of the building so that the students are not kept together. That has not been done here. And that's underutilized educational space that we have right now that is being overlooked. There's multiple other options that we have. Even a new site for anyone that wants a whole new building. This school board unfortunately has foregone consolidation, which was our saving grace to potentially get millions in state aid. That has been given up on. So we're talking about pulling 5th out of the middle school, which will increase the chances of Mount Vernon pulling out, because that's going to increase their tuition, which will leave us with $1 to $2 million shortfall to make up for. All these factors need to be taken into consideration, because that is not being done right now. And there's other options, but I can't go through them, unfortunately, with a minute. But I hope you just realize there's more options out there.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks. First, I want to say, if you haven't taken a tour of the Lipkin School, I highly recommend it. I'm not here saying that we don't need a new facilities approach. We absolutely do. I just don't think the Article 12 plan is the right plan. And so if it doesn't pass, we're absolutely going to provide and look at all the options. And what I mean by that is I want to look at a combined campus or unified campus where we use land from the high school. I want to look at potentially using the annex, look at varying other options as well that could be a lot more fiscally responsible. A unified campus would allow us to sell Wilkins to developers for quite a bit of money to help lower the cost of a new building on another piece of land. So yes, absolutely, we want to present all those, but we also, I'm frustrated that we've spent years and years and years and we haven't been able to get this project going. I'm going to work with the board to present all of the options on the ballot as if this doesn't pass, do you want to do this? If this doesn't pass, do you want to do this? And if this doesn't pass, you have a fallback option so the town can just vote on what they want once and for all and be done with it. So thank you.
I actually got a piece of paper here that was a suggestion rather than a question. It said, please announce how many vacancies for each position. Okay, there's 4 positions, or 4 people candidates running for 2 positions, that's correct. Okay, the next question I have is, over the last 25 plus years, the SAU 39 district has pushed for smaller class size, indicating that it will translate into higher student performance. As we look at our history, this is not true and has only driven up costs. What is your position on class size? And we'll go from Mike to the left.
So I think there are a lot of data points and metrics that really define educational outcomes and success, right? Currently we track English, language arts, and math, but really I do agree with the approach to look at the whole student. Whether we're doing that right or not, I'm kind of still diving into. I don't think class sizes are the only factor. I do think we do need to reevaluate class sizes as we look at a system-wide approach for all of SAU to understand where it makes sense to have smaller class sizes, maybe in the elementary, and then increasing class sizes at the high school, where many other studies have been to show the benefits of varying class sizes. So I think class sizes is one metric, but we need to be looking at a lot of different data points to truly understand what is happening with educational outcomes. The other thing we can't downplay is COVID took a massive hit to our test scores, to our students' understanding, to our students' ability to keep up, right? Remote learning was not as successful as we would have liked. So there is a tail of that that's happening and students kind of going through and catching up that we just need to realize as well. So it's not just about class sizes. Anybody looking at it should look at a data-driven approach and a system-wide approach to understand all the metrics that actually add up to understanding whether we're being successful teaching our students or not. Thank you.
Just to clarify, was the question essentially how much does class size factor into performance?
Yeah, the question is basically, they hope that lower class size will translate into higher student performance, but it's not true and has driven up costs. What is your position on class size?
My position on class size is you could have a school system that has 10 students per class potentially be performing worse than one school district that has 20 in. However, in general, I would agree with the notion that less students in the class for the teacher to focus on would tend to improve performance. However, there's so many factors that come into play. For example, one of my concerns in this district is more than I've ever seen when I was at this stage going through the school system. Every once in a blue moon, we had a pilot program. It seems like I get an announcement, an awful lot of announcement and emails saying we're another pilot, another test. So I think there's other factors besides just test class size. I believe it is advantageous to have smaller class sizes. However, you have to look at other things. And I would like to speak with all the staff and teachers and administrators. Are we doing too many pilots and too many I don't know if experimental is a word, but too many non-traditional or just, temporary tests? I don't know if that's weighing on student performance or potentially dragging it down as well. That's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, so class size in and of itself is one sole factor, is not independently going to drive or impact if you're looking solely at test scores, right? So John Hattie, he has this incredible book called Visible Learning, the sequel, and it's a whole bunch of meta-analyses, and class size is one of the factors that he studies. The benefit of smaller class sizes is it allows, and the SAU office has been very vocal about this, evidence-based, research-based practices. It allows the educator in the room to provide feedback, to spend more time with that student, And that is kind of what drives the achievement. But to Mike's point, standardized testing and trying to use that as the sole metric as to whether or not the educational experience is improving or is sufficient is not, from my perspective, the proper approach. It's more data points, there are more metrics that we need to be looking at. I've been pushing that on the board. For example, even at the last SAU board meeting, we looked at the framework for success. We used to have the framework for progress, now we have the framework for success. I pointed that out in goal area 1, where it said here are the outcomes of goal area 1. I said, hey, the only metric we're using is standardized tests. I still want to see other metrics. It's not the sole driver. That's one day, that's one snapshot in time.
I'd like the other two candidates, because we have the same question, to answer what Jason just addressed. Is in your opinion, standardized tests an effective way to judge the quality of education provided? So we'll go Aaron first, and then Michael, and if you want to readdress it.
Sure.
Go ahead.
And we have one, is it 1 or 2 minutes?
1 minute.
1 minute for each question. I wasn't implying anything by that. I just wanted to know where I should be at. And sorry, one more time, what was that?
Is your opinion standardized tests are an effective way to judge quality of education provided?
Standardized tests, I think they certainly weigh in. And a lot of people like to say, I don't like to compare. We can't compare apples and oranges between districts. But as I've previously said, the fact of the matter is people do look at those test scores. And they weigh into, I mean, if the district is performing at 90% proficiency and another one's 10%, obviously one school system's better than the other. When you start getting closer together, 80 or 85 or 90%, then you have a whole wide variety of factors that can potentially, the lower performing school potentially might even be the better school, especially for each individual child or student. So I think they do factor in. I don't think they're the be-all, end-all. I don't think they should be ignored. I've heard it said too often that we can't compare, we shouldn't compare, these tests are worthless, they don't guarantee achievement. I see some merit to that, however, we can't throw out these test scores as a factor because they do, in reality, people use those as a metric, as they should. You have a district that's 20% proficiency, it's probably not a good district. Thank you.
Good, go ahead, Michael.
So as I said in my previous statement, the test scores aren't enough by themselves, right? We can't look at the test scores in a vacuum, especially during this day. We need to look at things like ELA and math are great, but is the student ready to go to college or go to a trade school or be ready to be a functioning member of society, right? And so we need to evaluate the whole student, right? And they talk about that in the framework for progress and the framework for success. So I don't think the test scores alone are good enough. However, like Aaron said, it is something many people look at. So we should absolutely strive to increase those test scores, but at the same time we need to hold ourselves accountable and have real metrics that the town can look at, that we work with the superintendent and the SAU on to say, this is what we're tracking. So you can see, are we making progress? Are we actually doing what we're saying we're doing, other than just looking at the test scores and looking at the whole student, so you can hold us accountable for whatever it is we're saying is a good student, what that outcome is. Thank you.
Jason, do you want to?
Yeah, sure, I can quickly readdress it. Fairly similar. Is it part of the portfolio, for lack of a better term? Sure, right? It's absolutely a factor. For me, I'm also more interested in, and this is what I'm trying to kind of push us in the direction of, right? So especially at the elementary level, we have students who are receiving standards-based or competency-based scoring, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 being at the meeting expectations and synonymous with proficient. So what percentage of our students, because that's a larger data set than a one-day snapshot, like how many of our students in their classroom assessments are proficient? I want to see that data. Additionally, I'm also interested in other data outside of solely, because to Mike's point, the whole student, data outside of just academic achievement scores. How many students are we having to have interventions with for social emotional learning? How many students are getting referred? How many behavioral concerns do we have? Right, because that's indicative of an unhealthy school building or an unhealthy educational experience. So it's more than solely just paper, pencil, or computer-based, but how many other challenges are we having? What are we doing to address those? are our kids ready? What can our students produce? What skills have they mastered? Interpersonal skills, which are nearly impossible to measure, but that they can produce, and are they ready to be active members of society? And that's the objective of public education.
Thank you. We do have more questions, but we need to move on. I would suggest, given the number of questions, that if the candidates can hang out after the meeting, you could come up to them and address them with your specific questions. So we're going to move on to the Amherst School. Well, thank you. Sharon Kaur is running for Amherst School District Moderator. There's two people running for this position. The other gentleman, excuse me,
Matt Comstock, also on vacation.
Matt Comstock
Yeah.
couldn't make it today, so go ahead, Sharon. I would stand if I were you.
All right, hello everyone, I'm Sharon Kaur. I've lived in Amherst for 10 years. I am a mother of 4 children. My oldest is 20 and my youngest is 12. We have taken full advantage of all that Amherst offers in terms of schooling. We've had one child who graduated from Souhegan, another one who's graduating this year, and I also have a child who went to the Academy for Science. I also have a child who went to the Academy for Science and Design in Nashua, and I have another one there right now. So I have a little bit of experience with all different, and I also homeschooled at one point. So a little bit of experience in all things. For this moderator role, I think it's important to have somebody who can be impartial. My background, I have served on the SAU Budget Committee for 2 years. I was the president of the PTO for the Academy for Science and Design Educational Foundation for many years. My background is in finance and accounting. I worked on Wall Street for 10 years in New York and London. So I am a numbers and data girl, but I think as a moderator, the key thing is to let everyone put their best ideas forward and have the conversation in the hopes of moving forward for an 80%, vote towards whatever the future holds for Amherst schools. I think 50%, even getting right to 60 is not ideal. I mean, we want to be overwhelmingly supporting the direction that we're going in, and as moderator, my job is just to let people talk and to get that information out to as many people as possible so we can get the best ideas and move the ball forward. So that's all I want to say. If there's any questions.
Thanks, Sharon. I don't believe we have any questions, so we'll move on to the Souhegan Cooperative School Board. That's 4 candidates running for 2 positions. Brenda, can you come here for a second? Again, we're going to have each person speak for 2 minutes in the alphabetical order. Okay, so we're going to do this in alphabetical order. I have to figure out the alphabetical order. Hines or Hennessy? E, G, yes, so it's going to be Cindy Hennessy first.
Hi everyone! Good morning. So glad to see you all here, even standing room only. That's awesome. And the peanut gallery, that's awesome too. My name is Cindy Hennessy. I live in Amherst. I am married to my wonderful husband. We have 2 cats. I am a teacher by day. So what's going to be the difference between this job and my day job? This job, I want to be on the school board. My day job, I don't want kids bored in school. Hey! So,
Thanks.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Raj.
Sorry, it's a little slow. I got it. I woke up early. I got it.
We'll try that again. Yeah, I'm excited to be running for this position. I want to be that bridge between teachers. I have 10 years of experience and I'm teaching in middle school now. I want to be that bridge between teachers and staff and the school board and administration and the students, and do everything possible to make Souhegan High School a great place to learn. And yeah, so excited to be here and answer your questions. I have beautiful pink signs in my car if you want to take one home. Yeah, I
Okay. Okay, the next person would be Bob Hines.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for hosting and thanks for putting this together. I really appreciate it. I've lived in Amherst now for about 8 years. I've been in New Hampshire now for 24 years. Retired Navy, Master Chief. I was Chief of the boat on the Dallas. I welcome that experience. I've been a senior leader in multiple industries, mostly down in Massachusetts, including semiconductor, water, wastewater, and now med device, VP of a startup down there for a unique surgical device. Previous background is Master Training Specialist in the military, Director of Technical Training for Semiconductor, and I was an adjunct college professor for about 6 years. I did a short stint on the Amherst School Board when somebody resigned, and I was there. Unfortunately, my election failed that time around, but certainly didn't put the right amount of effort into it, so I attended things like these events. One of my pretty smart presidents, CEOs of a company said, "You can fix anything with money, but seek other alternatives." He really wanted to impress that, we can spend until, to solve the problem, but that may not always be the right solution. One of the things, so I do use that kind of as a daily framework. I use that with my team and the current company. I'm transparent, I do listen, and I will certainly make thoughtful decisions, with all sides represented. All I can say is, what about Bob? So, appreciate it.
Okay, the next person would be Raj Gupta.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'll walk around a little bit here because just so you can project my voice a little bit. Really excited to be here. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you all for putting up with sitting here for this long. I'm really grateful to be able to serve. I think I'm at a point in my life where a lot of times I was saying, oh, I'll do it here, later. And in an effort to be really, really transparent, I'm going to put that out, and it may cost me, but I want you to hopefully appreciate what I'm about to say. I have only lived in Amherst for just over a year. Say, who is this outsider? Why is he here? I've been connected to Amherst through family for almost 30 years. The 4th of July parades are like a staple for my family, and some of my family were the original Souhegan students. And so walking through that school now, I can sort of see that history, and I have a lot of ideas about has this school evolved the way it should have? Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't, but I think we should have open and honest conversations about that. So yes, there I am being very transparent. You may say, we don't want this outsider. I've been in New Hampshire for more than half my life. I am grateful to be here. Just earlier, Jason and I were talking about this is the right pace of life for me. I like that we generally can have conversations like this about what's important to us, and we can try and hear each other out. And one of the things I said during the forum on February 18th is I don't want to be the sort of person who's got all the ideas. What I want to be is someone who comes and asks the right questions. And so through those questions, together we can get to the right answer is my hope. I did leave my career midway to go become a high school teacher. I absolutely loved it. I saw the really rough side of bureaucracy and was only able to survive there for 4 years. So I give a lot of credit to some of the folks here who have been able to make a career in education. And I think that's a good experience, right? Business stuff, I've done lots of really cool things, managed some really substantial projects for some really well-known companies. But really, I just want to be here to have a conversation with you, so really grateful for your time today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Jim Manning.
Hey everyone, my name is Jim Manning. I'm running for Souhegan Cooperative School Board. My family and I have lived in town for just over 2 decades. My wife Diane and I, and our dog Zeke, have been in the Souhegan Woods neighborhood for a while. Our 3 boys, Jack who's 24, Luke who's 21, and Cole who's 19, all went through the Amherst school system. They graduated from Souhegan High School and it's really been a blessing to live in town here. A little bit about my background. I have a 32-year career with Merck, which is a biopharmaceutical company. It's a Fortune 500 company, where I've held lots of positions in management, from working in Washington, D.C., which honestly is a nightmare, to our corporate offices down in Philadelphia. I've done some global assignments around health policy, so I have a lot of management experience. I was also on the Amherst School Board for 6 years, from 2011 to 2017, and the Souhegan Board, where I was chair from 2018 to 2020. So I've done some other things. I've coached lacrosse, I've coached football, I've been on the board for the Amherst Patriots, I've been on Ways and Means for Amherst. So I have a lot of really deep insight into how budgets at public school systems operate. So the reason I'm running now is because I had no desire to ever be on the school board again. The reason I'm running now is because my view is that we're kind of at a pivotal point with our school system. We've got a situation where Souhegan is in a transition phase, where the administration is trying to thread the needle between the coalition of essential schools to getting to a model where they're trying to do more measurement and outcomes-based education. And that threading the needle is going to be very difficult, especially at a time when there are people in town who are on a fixed income, and there's going to be a lot of pushback on the budget. So being able to thread the needle with that and be able to bring back budgets that people can support. Because what's the point of putting a budget out there if people aren't going to vote for it, right? I'm very proud of the fact that when we were on the board in Amherst and Souhegan, our budgets were very responsible. And working with people like Donnie and people on Ways and Means, people like Mark, we were able to do that. So that's what I'd like to do this time. I'm a big believer in public education. I think we can do it right in this town. So hopefully you'll vote for me for Souhegan School Board on March 11th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. If people want to ask questions, we have, okay, just ask it. Sure.
You mentioned the coalition model for Souhegan. I know that Bedford uses the baccalaureate model, and they're a highly successful high school. What do you think about the chances of looking into what has worked so well for Bedford?
Okay, we'll go from right to left. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay.
Can somebody explain, before you answer the question, what the basic differences are between those two models?
Well, what the candidates do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you have
Yes.
any questions, please use the form.
So so I know I only have a minute, but just to explain first, the International Baccalaureate model is very similar to like we do AP courses at Souhegan, whereas the Bedford model, they offer those same type of credits through this International Baccalaureate model. Only a certain percentage of students at Bedford get to do that. And so I'm going to use this word strategy because, to answer your question, when I was on the board, I get very frustrated at times because we have 3 school boards in the SAU. We have Mount Vernon, we have Amherst, we have Souhegan. So you have 17 board members. It's very difficult to reach consensus and agreement among 17 board members on 3 different boards. It's really tough. I mean, Laura was on the board, she remembers that's a challenge. So when I was at the board, on the board for Souhegan, one of the things I wanted to do is I kept repeating over and over, we need a strategy for what we want this school to be. It's not enough to do an operational excellence exercise. We are measuring outcomes. Oh, we're measuring ELA, we're measuring math. The question that a board member should be asking right now is, where are we driving the bus? What do we want these school systems to look like in the future? So you can have all these OpEx things, but is it getting us to the right destination? That's still a question I feel is unanswered. So in order to answer your question, I guess I would say I don't know. Because the boards have to agree. Like, are we going to continue to be a coalition of essential schools? Are we going to have a hybrid? Are we going to move to International Baccalaureate? One more thing, Bedford's strategy is to do really well on the test scores. That's why they do well. They do well on the test scores. Hollis Brookline does well on the test scores because they teach to the test scores. Why was
okay, let's wrap it up.
Why was Souhegan? Why was Souhegan not great? Souhegan was not great because we didn't focus on the test scores. Now we're starting to do that more. We just have to decide as a board where are we driving the bus.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah, really interesting question. Thank you for it. I don't want to overdo what Jim just said, but I think it is about what is the goal of the goal. What are we trying to accomplish here? And think of it like this, right? It is 2025. We are a quarter of the way through this century already. How are we thinking about what a 21st century education actually means? The coalition model, which dates back, prior to this century, right? That was supposed to take us through this century, and that the coalition doesn't exist anymore. So what are we thinking about as a community about what we care about for our students through the next 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, 25-year plan. But I think about when I walk through Souhegan and I look at the classroom, does the classroom look really similar to what I went through as a student? And what pictures of previous generations? It does. And so I'm curious, does that mean that's the right format? That's really how students learn? Or should we be thinking about something differently? The IB program, I actually substitute taught in Bedford, and I had students who were in that IB program, and I started with them in September and had them through November. Those students were ridiculously stressed. We had mental health issues where I really was worried about the well-being of those students because of the pressure they were feeling to get through their senior year with IB. So I would just want to be really thoughtful about what it means if we want to introduce that into the Souhegan model.
Well, thank you, Cindy.
Yeah, maybe Bedford has some good ideas. We could look at them to see what is good already at Souhegan High School. I went through public education, and I went through, took AP classes, and I graduated from MIT, and MIT accepted my AP courses. So let's just see what the method of learning works best for Amherst kids and Mount Vernon kids, and how is it integrated throughout their entire education from little to high school graduation. So, thank you.
Hi, good question. I look at the framework for success that we currently have right now, right? And, there are things in there, it's kind of a goal statement, but I don't think they're functional or, there's no real metrics on how to achieve those goals and what would be the definition of success when we would achieve those. I think we need to evaluate, the current model, look at other models such as the baccalaureate, and then be able to make sure that as a unified board that we put things in place to be able to achieve those goals. So, we have here, we have students, and teaching to the test certainly is not the right approach. I think we have to have expanded thinking and be able to empower our students to think and learn effectively. So I think we have some work to do.
Okay, one last question. I ask every candidate to stay within the minute.
That's correct.
It's okay. It was actually submitted through an email, but if the new school isn't passed, are you as a board member open to looking at using the annex as one of the possibilities of a contingent plan? And we'll start from Bob and go this way.
Okay. Certainly there's going to be expense associated with the annex. We'd have to evaluate. There's probably some far-reaching things that we'd have to look at: transportation, times, additional bus routes, as far as getting students to that annex. As far as the condition of the annex, I don't believe it has cafeteria facilities, lunchroom facilities, a gym that would be appropriate. I need to tour it. I've seen it from the outside. I've not been on the inside, unfortunately. But again, all options are on the table, and I think we need to again relook at it and see where we go.
Thank you.
Yes, I think it's important to see what Amherst School Board, what they put forward, and as Souhegan School Board, we work together with them. I think it's more, their students and what solutions are best for their students, but we are absolutely willing to work with them, whatever comes from their ideas as a board, what the town decides by voting, and so I'm just willing to work together with what the town agrees on. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, am I open to it? Absolutely. I'm open to hearing and discussing all sorts of different ideas, right? And we think about this quirkiness of the fact that we have these multiple school boards, but at the end of the day, we're representing the same community here in Amherst, and it's the same arc of students that are coming through those two different school boards. So I think having a conversation is absolutely something that we should consider if we end up in that position where we're you know, the warrant article isn't passing. I think that to Bob's point, I'm not certain whether we can satisfy the needs of having 7th and 8th grade students there in terms of the facilities, cafeteria, gym, and so I think that's would be part of the discovery process if we are in that situation where we need to try and do something different. But we should be open to talking about different ideas and like hearing each other through them. And I'm sure there are people who are stridently opposed to it, and there are probably people who are stridently for it, and let's have a conversation about what makes sense there.
Yeah, so, man, my experience with this goes back to 2015. So we started having conversations about this back in 2015. We didn't have an actual committee until 2018. We've been talking about this for 10 years. My initial answer in terms of the annex would be, no, the annex as it is not conducive to having 7th and 8th grade there now. If you get into the annex is not set up to have lunch, to have gym, all those things. However, if the elementary school does not pass, I mean, that's a signal, right? We need to be open to try something different and more creative. What that would mean, though, if we looked at the annex's expansion, is we'd probably have to build an addition to the annex, right? There's a field that's next to the annex, between the annex and the football field. There's plenty of space there to put an addition. But again, that would require additional expense. How much that is, I don't know. Are all the boards in support of that? I don't know. Does that mean that we don't need a new elementary school? Probably still need one, right? So the question is, like, the devil's in the details. What do the numbers look like? How does it support the students? But to answer the question, would I be open to something like that? Yes. Would I be open to just taking 7th and 8th graders and jamming them in the annex as it currently exists? No.
Okay, I'd like to give a quick round of applause. We have one person running for moderator for SAU 39. George, what's George's last name again? Bauer. George Bauer. He couldn't make it here today. So we're going to move on to planning board. We have 2 individuals running for planning board. I don't know if the other gentleman made it here today.
There's 2 openings and 2 people running.
And I think the other gentleman didn't make it. His last name is Letty?
Liddy.
Gordon Leedy. Okay, so Lisa, go ahead.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Hagan, and I'm running for planning board. So my history with the town, me and my husband moved here 10 years ago. As far as participation, I served as a ballot clerk and also a poll challenger. Preparation for this position, I reached out to a former board member to see what the time commitment was, to make sure I could, fulfill the requirements of being a planning board member. And then also I have researched some training. I looked at 2023's training for planning board, the basics, and also I reviewed the Riggin rules, which I guess are rules with do's and don'ts of a judiciary hearing, because that's you serve in that capacity. So why do I want to do this? Because we really love this town, and I just want to get more involved. And I want to make sure that we're following the regulations. I want to learn, and I want to balance the regulatory compliance with what the residents want, because I know that was expressed earlier, some things that are kind of in conflict. My experience and background is in aviation. I was a flight instructor, I was a check airman who certifies pilots. I'm commercially rated, and I also was a training manager. And right now I work for the Federal Aviation Administration, that's in air traffic. So again, lots of regulation involved with this. So lots of regulatory compliance, regulatory application, and I feel like this is what the board purpose is to make sure we're complying with RSAs. And I plan to research the RSAs because there's many of them. Let's see, so I obviously have an extensive history with public service. I've been with the FAA for 20 years now. I'm also lots of management. I'm a manager at the FAA. I was a manager with flight training as well. And I've served in like judiciary roles before, like with, what do they call it? facilitation, and also just making decisions on, in a judiciary way. Currently, I'm doing investigations for the agency for fraud, waste, and abuse. So allegations are put forth, you have to look at it objectively, you have to find the facts, you have to remain very objective and impartial, and that's what I plan to do. So thank you very much.
Okay. I don't think so. So we're going to move on to library trustee position, and I think Jim is running as well. And I have two written statements from two other candidates, which I'll read them while you're looking at.
All right.
This one is from Gretchen Piles. Thank you so much for your invitation. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend. I will be out of town on Saturday, and this is school vacation. My name is Gretchen Piles, and I'm running for re-election as library trustee. My family and I have lived in Amherst for over 20 years. We've been avid library users during the entire time. In the past, I've served as vice chair, then chair of the Friends of the Library. I've also served 3 terms as library trustee. Additionally, I'm employed in the Hooksett School District as a library media specialist at the elementary school there. So libraries are very important to me, especially Amherst Town Library. I'm running for library trustee because I believe our library is a valuable resource for our entire town. We have an amazing staff that is incredible, kind, helpful, and knowledgeable. Additionally, the library is a welcoming and accessible community space with a wide range of resources, including print and digital materials, using various platforms. And we have a wonderful in-person and virtual programming for adults and kids alike. Our library provides big town services with a small town feel. If re-elected, I will continue to use my skills and experience to ensure that our library remains a vital community center for our entire town. So I would appreciate your vote on March 11th. Thank you. Thanks again, Gretchen Piles. Okay, another gentleman is David Hallenbach. This is his statement. Thank you for considering me for the position of library trustee. I've been honored to serve as your trustee for the past 3 years. With a background as a teacher, software engineer, and consultant, I bring a mix of experience that will help me support our library's growth and success. I'm passionate about libraries because there's so much more than books. They're places where people connect, share stories, and find inspiration. Our library is already fantastic, but I believe we can do even more. In today's world, where it's easy to feel isolated, I see our library as a space where we can come together, listen, and learn from one another through community conversations, which is in keeping with our library's mission. It's a little long, I'm going to pop down a little bit. I'd like to see our library explore more joint projects with the Amherst Historical Society to capture and digitize the amazing personal and historical stories of Amherst residents. Libraries have always adapted to changes in technology, society, and the environment. I'm committing to helping our libraries respond to these changes while keeping services excellent and cost manageable. I'm going to just move to the end. If these ideas resonate with you, excuse me, I'd be grateful for your support. That's David Hallenbach. Okay, Jim.
I'm the only non-incumbent running for this position, and when I signed up, there was actually only 2 people running. But I think that the library does a pretty good job as it is. I believe it could be better, and my goal would be to investigate ways in which we could expand our contribution to the community. Thank you.
You might want to stay up here for a second.
Oh, people have questions.
Actually, I have a question.
You have a question.
And he answered it in his own address. So let me formulate the question a little bit. Let me find it. Oh yes. How do you think that we can take advantage of artificial intelligence in the library?
Oh, we got to ask that question during the other candidate forum.
Yeah, and I asked it. But he also answered it in his statement, so go ahead.
So, artificial intelligence is a technology that's still in its sort of infancy, and I think that, and I mean, I've used it. I've mainly used it to write programs in languages that I don't usually write in. So it does a pretty good job of that, but then you have to check what it does very carefully. What role will AI play in the library? I think it's too early to tell.
Okay, I'll give you David's answer. Artificial intelligence is evolving rapidly. We need to learn how we can take advantage of it, train our patrons in the use of it, and recognize when it's giving us false information. Are there any other candidates running for a position that I missed? I don't think so. So now I know the second reason why we put on this debate. The first reason was to give people more exposure, and I think the second reason is I think we do a good job of it. I don't know. Why not? I enjoy doing it, so it's fun. You know, it's great. And I really appreciate the candidates coming out. I hope they all felt they were given a fair run at it, and that the questions were appropriate for what they were running for. So thank you very much. Okay, that sort of concludes our meeting. Normally this would be a Republican meeting. For anyone who is interested in AI, we're planning to bring in a world-class AI expert to come and speak at one of our meetings. So we'll announce that later in the library. Thank you.
Thank you.